What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. Our brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To play, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. And we feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To play, haters face the world's mistakes. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway.
That was pretty good timing, you have to admit.
Hey daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
What's up, losers? Welcome. I'm Will Bird. This is the Cold Beer Confessional. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you guys for being here. Welcome. Been a big day, I guess. It's been a different day. Some new information came to light. You remember how we were talking about the right-wing fucking Trump humpers? We're like, Trump's been in office for 4 days and he's already put everybody in a furnished apartment or whatever. That would be awesome if that was true, right? Anybody affected by the storm, you got 6 months, furnished apartment. Don't worry about it. The rent's paid. That would be awesome. No matter what president did that, I would still be like, hey, that's pretty fucking cool, right? Everybody that was legitimately affected by the storm got 6 months, a year, whatever, at least for an apartment. The video that they're using, we found it, and it came out on FEMA's Facebook page on the 21st of January, okay? The 21st of January, which seems implausible that It was less than 24 hours after Trump had been inaugurated. Okay? It was less than 24 hours after Trump had been inaugurated. So that seemed like implausible. Well, it turns out that's because it is. It actually, the video came out 3 days before Trump was inaugurated. The video actually came out 3 days before Trump was inaugurated. So if it wasn't Trump who put this woman in an apartment, by the way, it's just one woman. I don't know how they're taking this one woman's story and saying, oh, Trump put everybody. North Carolina has everybody in North Carolina in a furnished apartment. It's one woman. One person. Anyways, here it is. We can see what day it was published on. This is the story this is the video that they're using to say that Trump in his first, they always say in his first 3 or 4 days, depending on which video you watch, got everybody into a furnished apartment in Western North Carolina. But you can see the date published here. It has 648 views. The date published was January 17th of 2025. That's 3 days before Trump went into office. So do we think Trump got this one woman into an apartment?
Was actually going to be able to get an apartment. I was just like relieved.
Slow it down to normal people.
So I like walked in here and saw a kitchen table and a bed, and I was like, oh my God. When I found out that I was actually going to be able to get an apartment, I was just like relieved. And it didn't really hit in until I like walked in here and saw a kitchen table and a bed, and I was like, oh my God, you guys got me cups. I mean, it just had like just enough to where I could bring in my own things. And then I started crying when I saw the bed because it's just like, it's just very comforting. I'm like, oh, I get to stay here for a little while. So that was nice. And then we did hugs.
I mean, again, this is a good thing, no matter what president it was under. But to take this one video of something that happened before he even took office, of one person, it's dangerous, right? You're taking attention and probably donations and volunteers away from this situation where people still need homes, right? People still need homes. You're taking all that away because in Trump-tardia land, they think Trump solved the problem already. When in reality, he hasn't done much, but I mean, he did a press conference and a photo op.
Hugs with the FEMA guys and Gordon, who helped me get in here. And then the dogs somehow knew that this was where we were going to be for a minute and had a band of a time. And I just like sat in here and was just like, yeah, I'm okay.
And I'm not going to say if tomorrow Trump comes out and says I saw everybody's tweets and I decided that we're going to put everybody affected by the storm that doesn't have a place to live, or put them in furnished apartments for 3 months, 6 months, a year. I don't care. I would say, thanks. Awesome. That's a good job.
I'm okay for a minute.
Just lie about it is wild.
It's just very, it's a great relief.
So anyways, again, it came out 3 days before Trump was even inaugurated. You can't use, it was that, who's that guy on Twitter? His name is, we're about to see it in the video. Was it Van Swole? Is that his name? Matt Van Swole, is that his name? Maybe? Anyways, we'll watch this debunked video, and you'll see why they're sharing it, and I guess...
Hey, I just
what they want to get to.
See what Debunction Junction put up, because this is what we're dealing with now. And I think it's essential that we not only support the groups debunk.
By the way, Debunction Junction is a fucking amazing name for a social media channel.
These lies, but that we become far more media aware in the years to come, because we are being played every single day. Watch.
All right, so if you've been on any social media for the past couple of days, you've surely seen this hurricane victim from North Carolina, along with some claims like this.
President Trump has these people being transferred to fully furnished apartments.
They're taking them out of hotel rooms and they're putting them in furnished apartments.
These are all the different people that are saying Biden did nothing, FEMA did nothing, Trump shows up and puts everybody in an apartment.
Are getting fully furnished apartments.
People are being moved out of tents now into completely furnished apartments.
Oh, wow. So Trump is putting people in fully furnished apartments, and you can see these videos are getting a lot of...
I don't know where the rumor's coming that... You guys know that I've talked about it on the show, and I've talked about it in posts and in TikToks. Now there's a rumor that that Biden never sent the Army Corps of Engineers. You know, they were here. I met with them and hung out with them for a day talking about bridges. Like, I don't know. Of course they were here.
Here, there's one little problem. They've
been
true
here
at all. And the secret to why these people are believing this lie lies with this little part here from a tweet on X. And here's that tweet from one Matt Von Swole. And you can see the woman here, and he claims from 6:48 a.m. on January 22nd that Trump had already taken office at noon on January 20th, had gotten this woman into an apartment.
In fact, they were here like the first time I saw the National Guard with an Army Corps of Engineers representative was, I think, like 2 days after the storm hit. I spent the night at my sister's. I came back the next day. No, it might have been 1 day after they hit. They already had a person, boots on the ground, and the National Guard was here. I met him at the end of the road, and we were talking about logistics, how we could get somebody out that was, basically we had this guy that was disabled. He uses like those arm brace canes to like walk around. I guess he's got like muscular dystrophy or something. We were trying to get him out, and one of the guys is an Army Corps Engineers guy.
Putting people in fully furnished apartments, and you can see these videos are getting a lot of views here. There's one little problem. It's not true at all. And the secret to why these people are believing this lie lies with this little part here from a tweet on X. And here's that tweet from one Matt.
Yeah, it's Matt Van Swole.
Von Swole, and you can see the woman here, and he claims from 6:48 a.m. on January 22nd.
So he claims that Trump did it in 2 days. Well, less than 2 days, right? Because it was noon on the 20th. So you have noon on the 21st, and then you have fucking 18 hours later.
That Trump had already taken office at noon on January 20th, had gotten this woman into an apartment. FEMA had the ability to make this entire video and then post it, and now he's gotten 3.3 million views.
Now, we knew that wasn't feasible. Like, they didn't shoot this video, edit it, put it out. But then we find it on a YouTube channel and actually come out on the 17th. They just didn't share it on their Facebook until like the 21st or something.
But I'm about to show you why this is all a lie, and Matt is nothing but a propagandist for Donald Trump. And step one is because this is the same video that Matt posted on FEMA's YouTube page, and as you can see, it was posted on the 17th of January 2025, which is 3 days before Trump took office. But wait, there's more. And if we look closely here at this woman's right hand, you can see that she's wearing a distinctive ring and also has these tattoos around her fingertips, and over here you can see that same distinctive ring and the same tattoos around the fingertips here. And if we look at this photo here, you can see that this is the exact same woman in a photo dated January 9th, 2025, 11 days before Trump took office, and it reads, "Survivors of Hurricane Helene receive the keys to their new housing after getting approved through FEMA's direct lease program." So now we all know Matt's tweet was an absolute lie.
Remember,
but are we really to believe that
FEMA did nothing, Joe Biden did nothing, the Army Corps of Engineers doesn't even fucking exist, none of this happened?
Head of subscription growth for Wisecam and a former nuclear scientist for the U.S. Department of Energy didn't have the ability to search this for 10 seconds and figure out it wasn't true? Or did he just want to post some propaganda for Donald Trump?
So yeah, this getting people into their homes thing happened under the Biden administration. But more importantly, it happened because of FEMA.
And I don't even care that it happened under the Biden administration. Who gives a fuck? The bigger problem with me is that they're saying everybody is taken care of now. The problem's fixed, and it's not fucking fixed. If anything, they're trying to put a bow on it and move the fuck on so he can't weigh down Trump. Well, he put everybody in houses. What did you expect him to do?
The Federal Emergency Management Agency that Donald Trump is now talking about getting rid of. And he's doing that because A, it will save money so we can give the ultra rich more tax cuts, but B, because he wants everything to have to come through him. You had a disaster in your state? Beg me for money. You had a problem in your state? Come to me with your hat in your hands. You are struggling because of a hurricane, flood, fire, whatever? Jump through this hoop. Change this law. None of that is useful to people in crisis. FEMA's mission is to help people before, during, and after disasters. Their entire operating budget is for disaster relief, to do everything from reimburse states and local governments after emergencies to give money to uninsured homeowners to rebuild their homes. It is an organization full of professionals who know how to manage disaster relief and to handle a crisis. But it is this kind of misinformation that muddies the water. In fact, when Joe Biden was president, many people in North Carolina rejected FEMA's help and even stopped FEMA from doing their jobs, sometimes using violence because of the lies and disinformation that was being thrown at them. Now we might lose FEMA completely just so Donald Trump can give billionaires more money and make blue states in crisis grovel for his entertainment. That's not good for anyone. And if you don't believe he'll do that, watch Trump's press conference about the fires in LA. So don't be fooled by the lies. Double check the things you see. Find trusted sources and use critical thinking. And when you can, push back on this kind of disinformation.
The problem is not fixed. Trump did not wave a wand. J.D. Vance was, I think, J.D. Vance's plane landed in the Tri-Cities today. I don't know where he went. Somebody told me he was going to North Carolina. Other people said he was going to Virginia. I don't know what he did today. I don't really care. But it's not fixed, right? Stop trying to move on and be like, he put them all in houses. No, he didn't.
We are drowning in lies now. So we're going to have to work really hard to keep our heads above water.
It's just, they're so much more concerned with like, oh, Biden's shit and Trump's amazing. They don't even give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about the people there. They don't give a fuck about the people who lost their houses, the people that are struggling, or the people that don't have apartments. As long as they can say something to fucking own the libs. That's it. That's all they're interested in. And they just pretend like they give a fuck about it. They'll even say stuff like, I know people that live there. Bullshit. You just want to fucking say, oh, Biden didn't do anything. Trump did everything. It gets old. Hold on just a second. I'm refreshing a link that I think is still good. Yeah, there it is. Let's do this one first.
What say you, Alexander?
Oh, shit. I forgot. I want to play this one, but I can't while I'm on YouTube. All right, let's go with this one. We're playing that game with how fast can you say something that makes you immediately delete your TikTok account, private it, block everybody, take down all your videos. Pretty fucking quick.
I don't give two shits that families are being separated.
This is from a person called Hot Take Melody. Hot Take Melody. And I feel like up until this point, she was probably just saying stupid shit just to get views, right? All press is good press kind of assault on TikTok. She was just saying retarded shit because even if people were talking shit about her, it still got views or whatever. I think she may have crossed a different line this time. People were not happy. Now everything's private. All the videos are gone. You can't even find her on the fucking internet.
I don't give two shits that families are being separated if somebody's getting deported. I actually find it hilarious. It gives me a great deal of comfort. I have no sympathy that your child might grow up without a father because he got sent back to Mexico or whatever. I mean, y'all are welcome to go with him. Don't forget that's an option. That's a choice that you're making, right? I don't have any sympathy for your little videos that you're making on social media with all the tears. I don't give a shit. I'm actually fucking laughing at you that you're sitting there crying for attention. Okay. I find you guys to be subhumans. All right. Now, while you're sitting there judging.
Subhuman. Well, she said subhumans, but that's because she's retarded, but subhuman.
Crying for attention. Okay. I find you guys to be subhumans. All right. Now, while you're sitting there judging me because I don't care that families are going to be separated from each other, I'd invite you to recall that hundreds of J6ers were separated from their families for something that equates to little more than a trespassing charge. Where were you then? Okay, bye.
Damn. That is a hot take. Hot take Melody. Her account can still be found. She didn't delete her account. I don't know that they'll ever let her come back from this. She better just make a new account and maybe change her lookup some. But she did private everything. Boom. This account is hot take Melody. What happened? Where'd you go? You have these blistering hot takes that you want to put out here, right? Right? Damn it, Melody. There's also a bunch of left-wing creators started challenging people that if Elon Musk's salute wasn't so bad, do it, right? We're full-chested, a full camera, back up from it, full body shot, snap your heels together, bang your chest, and do the salute just like he did. And then people are doing it, and then their employers are finding out about it and then letting them go. One of them was one of them was served on some type of board or some shit up in Pennsylvania, held a public office. She kept saying she would not resign, that people were too upset about it. It was just a simple gesture, that her heart goes out. Well, she already resigned. Weird. She already resigned. It's strange there. I want to see. Let's go with this. So there's a bleeding heart account. A guy begging for pity and sympathy. I want to show you a story, and maybe it kind of sounds enticing, like, oh man, this guy really got fucked over. But we can get to the bottom of it pretty quick. So the very first video that I saw this guy, his name is January 6th. Instead of January 6th, his name is Dan. So his name is January 6th. Okay? Let's see. This is the first video I saw of him. It's got 600,000 views. So it hit the For You page. People were watching it. Let's hear his side of the story.
I've been asked if I'm the same person I was before January 6th, and no, I'm not. Life has changed so much, so many things have happened. It's been a long 4 years living in this truck. Couldn't buy a home because, well, I didn't know whether or not I'd be going to prison. So, stayed in the truck. Anyway, I was driving through Dallas, Texas, driving my truck, when I received a phone call from my daughter, who told me that my son was just arrested in Denver at his home.
Oh my goodness.
Of course, I immediately knew, yep, January 6th. So the FBI agent, who by the way, his name was Nathan Garand, he wasn't really an FBI agent. He was a Colorado State Trooper moonlighting as an FBI agent to round up the Jan Sixers in Colorado. Well, I called him, I talked to him, told him where I was, said that I'd be willing to come into Denver as soon as I could get my company to work back to Colorado, and I would come and turn myself in. He agreed to it. I met him at the FBI building in Denver. I was immediately cuffed, searched, and taken to the federal building.
So you were just arrested. That's how arrests work.
Where I was chained up like a rabid dog and thrown into a cell for 7.5 hours before my...
That's how jails work.
Arraignment. No, I understand. Yeah, 7.5 hours. That's nothing compared to some of the other guys. But it is taking my freedom away from me. It was humiliating. So I was released and had hearings, and in my initial hearing we were put on pre-trial probation, so we had to be on probation before we went to court. And
that's how courts work.
And they had all kinds of things we had to abide by. But the most important to me was that my son and I were not allowed to talk to each other, to be around each other during that time. I mean,
that's how co-conspirators work. right? If two people are involved in a crime, they're not supposed to be talking to each other during the prosecution of that crime or investigation of that crime.
This whole process took a little over a year, and as far as I'm concerned, I could give her.
While you were out the whole time on probation?
Ass. Somebody telling me I can't see my son, but my son, on the other hand, is a small business owner, or I guess I should say was. Plumbing.
So he just said that he couldn't give a rat's ass. He didn't want to abide by the terms of his probation, but his son did because he didn't want it to affect his job.
In Denver, Colorado. And he was very worried about getting caught if we did keep in contact and losing his business. I don't blame him at all. I don't. So we didn't talk for over a year. I didn't see him for over a year. I was sentenced, and then he was sentenced a couple months after me. The thing is, we both were charged with the same offenses. I got 3 years of probation, fines. He got the same, but in addition, he got 60 days in jail.
Uh-oh.
And on September...
I wonder why his sentencing was... You say, I wonder why his sentencing was different than you. That's weird. Maybe he did something different? No, probably not.
30th of 24, the day he was to self-surrender and turn himself in to begin that sentence, he decided he wanted to go out on one last ride on his Harley, feel the wind in his hair, feel the freedom. I can only imagine what was going through his mind as he was on that ride. Distraction. He'd never been in jail before. I mean, to lose your...
Most people, the first time they go to jail, haven't been in jail before.
To be jailed, that's the worst damn thing. On that ride, he was hit by a truck, and he died.
Oh. Now, I'm not going to say that his son deserved to die, obviously, right? But I'm also not going to let you get away with saying that the Biden administration killed your son. That's your claim. That the Biden administration killed your son from an automotive accident where he was hit by a truck while riding a motorcycle?
A whole year, my son was kept from me by the government, by the DOJ, by the Biden administration over a farce, over a scam.
Wait, a farce? Are you claiming you weren't there at J6 and you didn't enter the Capitol? He peacefully entered the Capitol.
Over lies. No, I'm not the same. I have nothing but hatred in my heart for the people that were involved in this. I lost so much. I lost my son. My daughter lost her brother.
You know, independently of January 6th, your son could have died in an automobile accident, right? Those things aren't linked.
I've been asked if...
So he claims he has hatred in his heart, right? And that it was a farce. It was a setup. They killed his son. He claims that they took everything from him over this and it wasn't true and they didn't do anything wrong. But he's got more to his story. We can see if we believe it. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel J. Valdez. I am Jan Sixer. And I wanted to first say thank you for all the wonderful responses that I got on the last video I posted about my son and how the Biden administration killed him. And I couldn't believe the amount of people that responded with such positive messages. And basically I was asked a few times, well, more than a few times, to continue telling the story. So I figured I'd start from the beginning and we could go from there. my son and I decided to go to Washington on January 6th. It took us a couple days to get there. It was a nice road trip. We arrived.
It seems like you skipped over something. Why did you decide to go to D.C. on January 6th? Why did you decide to go to D.C. on Jan 6? Are you also going to tell people that afterwards you try to hide? So this guy, Daniel Valdez, went to January 6th because he believed in deep state pedophilia rings, he and his son, and believed that the big announcement that Trump was going to make when he said, we're having the rally and January 6th is going to be huge, everybody be there, that he was going to expose that the rhinos and the Democrats were all deep state child sex traffickers who consumed adrenochrome, and he wanted to be there for that announcement.
We arrived on the 5th of January and got a hotel room, and then we drove down to...
Daniel believed President Trump was going to tell everything about who in politics was sex trafficking children.
The Capitol area, where we found parking, and just proceeded to walk around the whole area. We'd never been there before. It was awe-inspiring. Great place. There were just thousands of people there. They had stages set up. People were giving speeches. We met all kinds of wonderful Americans, and things were going great. Well, anyway, we decided to get back to the hotel room, hit the sack, and get up early so that we could get a good spot on the ellipse when Trump spoke the next day. Unfortunately, my son slept in, and we ended up getting there. It really wasn't that late, but it was hours before it began, and the ellipse was completely full. There were thousands of people, and there's no way we were even going to get close. So we were way back at the group, and luckily they had radio transmission so we could hear the speech. And when everything broke up and everybody headed to the Capitol, we happened to be among the first to take off in that direction. And it was a bit of a...
Now, again, listen very closely what he said. He happened to be so he was at the back of the crowd at Trump's speech, okay? And they happened to be some of the first to head to the Capitol. Now, we know, we watched it. If they happened to be some of the first to head to the Capitol, they would have encountered barriers. They would have encountered barriers. We watched the first people nowhere near the Capitol building. A block away, coming up the steps and overrunning police that had bike racks and barriers set up, hard barriers.
Walk, I guess, about a mile or so, but everybody was in a festive mood. People were waving their banners. Everybody was just getting along. We got close to the Capitol, and that's when things started to, seem a little weird. There were certain individuals in the crowd that were egging everybody on. Come on, let's go. It's our house. Let's go inside. We're going inside. And a lot of people in the crowd.
Oh, it was those agitators that drove us to it. Okay. Agitators that no one saw or can find. They're all FBI.
We're catching on, and we're calling people out to be...
I don't have any pity for this motherfucker. Okay? His son didn't deserve to die. I'll give him that. But they're both fucking domestic terrorists.
It's something you should expect at events like this. So we started getting there. It was getting more crowded. We came up to a barrier, which were just bicycle racks. There was no signage, and we walked through the small parking area.
There were literally cops standing behind those bicycle racks, and they had to fall back after you guys shoved them into them, but whatever.
Across a couple of...
You're right, there was no signage.
Capitol officers, and we said, we're heading to the Capitol. Is this the way to go? And they said, yeah, you can cut right through there. It's right there, and of course you can see it. So we got to these barriers, and a couple individuals up front that were really... into it or what have you. They just pulled the barriers back. They weren't chained, nothing like that. It wasn't, like it is now with all the security fences around it. And the crowd proceeded to move through. And we proceeded to head up the hill, and the Capitol was getting closer, and people were getting a bit more rambunctious. There was a lot more people showing up, crowding in behind us.
Uh-oh.
Individuals that had climbed up onto...
By the way, you want to know how he described going to the U.S. Capitol in his own text messages? He said, greetings... Wait, it says message saying greetings for Kansas City's message sent to, okay. Number associated with Daniel as identified above. Later in the chain of text, messages. Daniel, in addition to sending pictures, sent messages saying how he was in D.C., there were millions of people here, how he had video of us tearing down the barriers. Us, not them, not agitators, not the FBI. Us tearing down the barriers, how they were on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, and how they can't stop us now. Does that sound like we were just on a friendly walk, and we asked for directions, and some people gave it to us, and they were agitators, but that wasn't me. And I was just out, measuring the grass, wondering how often they cut it. Us tearing down the barriers. We're on the steps of the Capitol. They can't stop us. There's millions of us. They can't stop us now. Listen how peacefully he enters.
Pillars of sorts, and we're waving on people, this way, let's go. And so we got up to where the scaffolding was, and everybody was pretty much stopping at that point. We figured, hey, we've got a good vantage point. Hopefully this is where Trump intends to speak at, because that was the whole thing. They had pulled permits so that we could hold a demonstration where we were at, and Trump was supposed to come and give another speech. It was great. We were way up front. We're gonna be able to see him. But nothing happened. Just people kept coming in. It kept getting really, really crowded. And the next thing you know, lines started going in, up, and under the scaffolding. Now, I used to work as a scaffold erector, so I was familiar with the whole thing, and it really wasn't that hard to, walk your way through. And we ended up going up into a courtyard of sorts, which was at the back end of the Capitol building, a beautiful court, and once again started gathering there with a bunch of people. I remember about 20 individuals unfurled a huge American flag, and they spread it all out and were waving it from the ground.
Oh my goodness.
We were just wondering what's going on here. And the next thing you know,
everybody was just confused. They can't stop us now. We tore down their barricades. It was us. Everybody was just happy, and we were waving flags. And someone said, "Hey, I probably can get a fondue pot if somebody would chip in on the cheese and meat spread."
They had, I don't know if you've ever seen those window washer units. They've got an engine on either side of a platform, and you need two operators to operate each end to bring it up level so you can get to the windows and wash them. Well, there were 3 individuals on that, and I remember the first thing I was thinking as they're setting it up to move in an upward direction, you've got to be trained to do something like this. You've got to know what you're doing. You're not just going to jump up on that thing and figure out how to work it. Well, they were working it, and they were going right up. They got up to a level of...
Just about anybody can drive one of these lifts. There is a lot of safety involved, like if you're going over bumps or cracks or soil that can give way or whatever, but just raising the motherfucker up, you pull out the emergency stop, you turn the key, and you push the fucking stick forward. It goes up.
Windows, I don't know, about 30, maybe 40 feet from the ground, and then started beating on the windows with batons, trying to break the windows. Now, these windows must have been some pretty powerful glass because they couldn't break them. And it was during that time that everybody on the ground was yelling up at them, "Stop, don't do that. Hey, stop it."
Oh, we were trying to stop them. Okay.
And they proceeded to get themselves back down to the ground and then just to move on and move away. Well, anyway, we, after standing there for a while, we noticed there was a line that was...
We just noticed there was, after standing around for a while, and Trump never showed up, which we were just there for his speech. That's all we were there for. Just as friendly as could be. We noticed a line
going straight towards the Capitol. You couldn't really quite see where the people were going in, but you could see this long line going. And the Capitol Police had stationed themselves on either side of the line as though to form a gauntlet of sorts to direct people in a certain direction. So everybody was walking that way. It wasn't going too fast. As a matter of fact, it was going pretty slow. And as we're walking, people are asking the officers who are in full riot gear, and they are not telling us to stop or turn around, saying, "Are you letting us inside? Is it cool to go inside?" Sure. They were moving us along,
By the way, at this time, they were beating the fuck out of the officers, right? This was well into it when there was a full-on assault on the officers. There wasn't people there telling them, "Go on along, right this way. Here we go, guys. Come on through." Let me lay out the scenario he's fixing to lay out, okay? There's a fucking full-blown riot going on at a federal building. You just happen, because your brain is just programmed to stand in lines, you get in a line of people going into the Capitol. You get to the Capitol building, it's your turn to go in, and you realize this isn't a doorway. This is a window that's been broken out. And you think to yourself, well, it's the way the line's going. I guess I just got to go in through this broken window. Does that make sense to fucking anybody? Does that make fucking sense to anybody? We were just there because Trump said he was having a speech outside. Next thing I know, broken window, and I'm like, hell, lift me up. I'm going in.
Along, I asked personally myself, an officer, yeah, no problem, and thought, oh, okay, that must be fine. So as we're moving,
it was a full-blown fucking riot. Bullshit.
Forward and getting closer, I'm looking up and I'm going, that's not a doorway, that's a broken window. People were
okay.
Each other up, in through the window, down the other side, and there's Capitol Police officers on either side watching this happen, not saying anything. Apparently someone had gotten there way before us and busted in that window.
Oh no.
Damage, it's like, well, we got close enough and there were so many people all over pushing forward that, my son and I thought, what the heck, let's go in. So I handed him my...
what the heck? Let's go in, right? They left the bank vault open. It's their fault if I go in there and take money. Duh.
My folding chairs, I was helped through the window, helped down the other side, and people were coming in one by one that way. There wasn't a bunch of rioting or yelling or people damaging property. People were actually just in awe, looking at the inside of the Capitol and what was going on. There was a group of about 15 right gear police officers on the inside where we were coming through, standing on one end of a wall just watching us. And people are walking in and they're looking up at the paintings, and my son and I just kind of followed the crowd in. We went through into this chamber, which I later come to find out was the vault.
This was after Ashley Babbitt's already been shot, by the way.
And there were numerous beautiful statues in this room. The room wasn't that big, but it led onto several different other corridors. We walked around and started looking at statues. And I noticed on the floor, especially right when I came through the window, that there was a bunch of cases of bottled water, wrapped in cases, and it would...
Oh, my goodness.
...setting all over the place. And I thought that was kind of...
So because there was bottled water setting around, they wanted to make it more inviting for us to beat out a window and climb through.
Strange, because...
That's his argument here. They wanted us to go in and drink their water.
The protesters were grabbing bottles of water to drink, which I don't blame them because another odd thing, well, I don't know if it's that odd, but when we arrived on the 6th, the whole time we were there, going up into the Capitol, there were no food vendors, there were no drink vendors, there were no public
You expected food vendors to be at the Capitol? Trump was supposed to have his speech at the Ellipse. You and Trump decided to change that. You expected food trucks?
restrooms. Later come to find out that the mayor didn't allow any of this to come in. They weren't going to cater to any Trump supporters, which I can understand. But by the time we got inside, people were thirsty and they were grabbing water and drinking it. And I'm thinking, well, that's really nice of the Capitol Police to put water out for us.
You think you went in through a broken window and you thought the Capitol Police had set water out for you? From the moment you saw the broken window and decided to enter, I don't give a fuck what other part you got to this story.
And that's when it finally hit me. They wouldn't put water out for us. There's only, from what I could think, one reason to have water in there.
What's that?
Make it appear more welcoming. Perhaps grab some water, take a drink, hang out for a while, stay a while. And I look at my son and I said, something's definitely wrong here. I said, we best head out. So we turned back the way we came and walked up to the group of officers in there, and there was a few of us, different people, that walked out and said, we would like to leave. Where can we exit at? And there happened to be a door that exited outside, not just right next to the window, pretty much. I figured
a locked door under their security protocol was barred shut.
That's where they would let us out. And they said, you go out the same way you came in. So we exited back out that way. And then
I don't think they're going to breach security protocol to open a door just because you busted in through a fucking window.
hit home that this was a setup. They wanted us to go inside.
Oh, okay.
Everybody in there is being
It was a setup.
not destroying anything. Everyone's polite. Everyone's happy.
Jesus
Police are
Christ.
cooperative. And, well, we walked out to the outside of the building, and that's when we worked our way back down in front of the scaffold. And come to find out that we were only inside. This was by court record.
Wait a second. You missed a portion. You missed a portion. Right? You and your son were in the Capitol. There were people live streaming this. There's multiple angles, multiple audio and video feeds. Did your son say something while you guys were leaving? Didn't your son specifically say something while you guys were leaving? What was it that he said? Oh, I got it. Hold on. On the way back through the crypt and out of the building, Peyton appears briefly in this YouTube video and can be heard saying at the 1 minute 9 second mark, "The next time we come back, it ain't gonna be fucking unarmed. That's for goddamn sure." So wait a second. Were you all accidentally pushed into a line and accidentally entered a broken window and accidentally found bottles of water and accidentally just left while waiting for a Trump speech? Would your son need to come back armed for? To accidentally open more windows? That's a weird statement to make. Y'all are peaceful and just hanging out and enjoying the view and checking out the crypt, and then your son says, "The next time we come back, it ain't going to be fucking unarmed. That's for goddamn sure." So it almost seems like you were there for an intent. Well, I wonder what that intent was. Was there something going on in the Capitol that day? Was there something happening, like the certification of a vote and the process of a peaceful transfer of power? Was there something going on? I don't know. Maybe it was just a tour.
For a total of 9 minutes, my son and I. Anyway, we got back out into the main crowd of people. I mean, there were people everywhere. And we're standing around, and it's around that time where they start firing on us with CS gas. And I distinctly remember thinking, I knew exactly what that was. When I was in boot camp in the Marine Corps.
Again, before they enter, or while they were entering, was about the time Ashley Babbitt was shot. He's fucking lying, right? Ashley Babbitt was shot way into the fucking riot and assault and people inside and CS gas and police officers being crushed in a tunnel and tased and beaten with flagpole. Like, it's not like, well, we just come back out and everything was fine and then the police started tear gassing us. Bullshit.
They put us through certain things, how to correctly don a gas mask, and they would take us out in small groups of Marines, and we'd go into tents. We would have our gas masks at our side, and they would set off CS gas. And then, as soon as they set it off, we had to pull our gas masks and don them as quickly as possible. Not everybody got those masks on in time and ended up puking. I mean, the CS gas, what it does, for one thing, it's like tear gas for your eyes. Another thing is
he's only been emboldened by this. He was like, I wasn't going to make this video, but now that we're pardoned and finally somebody's seeing through out this charade, he was emboldened by being pardoned.
It causes your mucous membranes to just open up. I mean, sorry, but snot flows out of your nose and such. And that's what happened at the Capitol. Everybody's just gagging and running in separate directions. I've actually got a few minutes of, or a few pictures rather, me and my son that I took of our faces directly after it happened. I'll have to post those at some point. But anyway, that was the first day. We immediately went and found our car and drove out of DC and didn't stop till we got back to Colorado. So stay tuned. I'll tell you about what happened after that. But anyway, once again, thank you for all the wonderful comments last time. You're a wonderful bunch of Americans. And talk to you soon.
Trying to become a fucking hero. Fuck these people. On May 3rd, 2021, agents with the FBI Denver reviewed certain user accounts identified for being associated devices located within the U.S. Capitol building on January 6, 2021, in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1752 A1 and 2, and various other charges. FBI Denver identified a user account associated with certain email addresses as likely identifiable with Daniel J. Valdez, Daniel Dan, of Park Street in Aurora, Colorado. On August 19th, initial investigating agents made contact with someone with personal knowledge of Daniel's whereabouts, person 1. The person informed agents that Daniel no longer lived at Park Street and had moved with his son, Peyton Valdez, to Geneva Street in Aurora, Colorado. Person 1 also informed agents that the phone number that Daniel has been contacting them from is blank. Additionally, person 1 provided Daniel's email address of Daniel Valdez 113 at yahoo.com, one of the email addresses above. Prior to specific questioning, person 1 predicted that agents were investigating Daniel in relation to the events at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Person 1 added that they had pictures that Daniel had sent them when he was at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, and provided those pictures to the agents. Person 1 explained that both Daniel and Peyton traveled to the U.S. Capitol for the January 6, 2021 event because Daniel believed President Trump was going to tell everything about who in politics was sex trafficking children. Person 1 said that that when the media later started showing pictures from the U.S. Capitol and mentioning the attendees were being arrested, Daniel said, "Looks like Peyton and I are going to get arrested." Person 1 said both Daniel and Peyton deleted their Facebook accounts, so they were also trying to hide, by the way. Deleted their Facebook accounts because they had posted pictures of themselves inside the U.S. Capitol, including a picture taken by an unknown person that depicted Peyton inside the U.S. Capitol holding a riot shield that had been taken from Capitol Police. Person 1 added that Daniel also sent Facebook messages containing pictures to others in which he bragged that he was at the U.S. Capitol. Person 1 informed agents that someone they knew, person 2, called the FBI a few days prior to their interview to report Daniel and had been at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. Along with forwarding figures 1 through 3 to the agents, person 1 also allowed an agent to video record their text message conversations with Daniel that started on January 3rd, 2021, approximately 4:28 Mountain Standard Time, where Daniel sent them messages saying, "Greetings from Kansas City." The messages were sent by the same number, the number associated with Daniel as identified above. Later in his chain text message, Daniel, in addition to sending pictures, sent messages saying he was in D.C. and how there were millions of people, how they had videos of us tearing down the barrier, how they were on the steps of the U.S. Capitol and how they can't stop us now, how they entered the U.S. Capitol through a broken window, and how he wasn't attacking anyone, so he wasn't likely to receive federal charges. The recording of the text chain stops with text on January 8th, 2021. As detailed below, law enforcement traced Daniel and Peyton's movements in the U.S. Capitol, observed by the U.S. Capitol security cameras. Daniel and Peyton were among the first rioters to enter through a broken window. So no big long line, whereas moving kind of slow, and we didn't know. They were some of the first rioters to enter through the broken window next to the Senate wing door at approximately 2:24 p.m. Note that the time listed in each of these screen capture descriptions is not necessarily reflective of the exact time of the screen capture. After entering the building, Daniel and Peyton traveled to the south to the crypt before returning and exiting out the window they entered through in the crypt. Peyton posed for a picture holding law enforcement riot shield and a beer, the beverage above. They were in the U.S. Capitol building for around 9 minutes. After receiving the photographs of person 1, FBI Denver now had information regarding the overall appearances of Daniel and Peyton on January 6, 2021. Daniel wore light brown boots, blue jeans, and an olive coat with a brown corduroy collar, a black hoodie, a black stocking hat with Carhartt stitched to the front, white letters, and black sunglasses. Additionally, Daniel is often seen in the videos and photographs with 2 folding chair bags slung over his shoulder, one red and the other one black or dark blue. Daniel appearances varies throughout the day in that sometimes he has a hood of his black hoodie up over his stocking cap and at times takes off the black sunglasses. Peyton wore dark boots with a light sole, dark blue jeans, a black Carhartt jacket, and a black shirt with a yellow American flag printed on the right sleeve and on the front. The snake from the Gadsden flag that includes additional text that can't be seen in its entirety. Peyton also wore a black backpack with one strap and was slung diagonally across his shoulders and chest. Peyton's appearance varies throughout the day in that he sometimes takes his black Carhartt jacket off and is sometimes seen without his backpack. Daniel's enters through the broken window. They got pictures of all this. 2:24. Daniel on the left of the circle, and Peyton on the right inside the Capitol just before the walking north out of camera view. Peyton and Daniel walking south side corridor of the crypt. They exit view of the camera at 2:25:49. Daniel in the upper part of the circle and Peyton in the lower part entering the north side of the circle. And Daniel walks out of the camera at 4:02. He appears to be the north side of the crypt. Daniel stands in place before soon walking out of camera view. Daniel in the bottom of the circle exits the north end of the crypt at 2:30. 2:31, Daniel on the left side of this circle and Peyton on the right side exit out a different window. So he just fucking lied about how he left. He exited out a different broken window just south of the one they entered. Daniel exits out the window. Peyton pushes him from behind. On November 7th, 2022, FBI investigation recovered public source media capturing instances in which either Peyton, Daniel, or both appear at the U.S. Capitol grounds or within the U.S. Capitol building. On January 6, 2021, Peyton can be seen in a YouTube video uploaded by Diomedes titled First Wave Over the Rampart. Peyton appears briefly and can be heard saying at the 1 minute 9 second mark, "The next time we come back, it ain't going to be fucking unarmed. That's for goddamn sure." Based on the foregoing, your affiant submits is probable cause to believe that Daniel and Peyton violated 18 U.S.C. 1752, A1 and 2, which makes it a crime to 1, knowingly enter or remain in any restricted building or grounds without lawful authority to do so. Clearly they did that. They entered through a fucking broken window. They entered in through a broken window. So they obviously entered and remained somewhere unlawfully, knowingly and with intent to impede or disrupt orderly conduct of government, business, or official functions, engage in disorderly or disruptive conduct in or within such proximity to any restricted building or grounds when or so that such conduct in fact impedes or disrupts the orderly conduct of the government, business, or official functions. They obviously did that. Once they're inside the Capitol, they had to stop the certification and remove everybody in the Capitol. For the purpose of Section 1752, Title 18, a restricted building includes a posted, cordoned off, or otherwise restricted area of the building or grounds where the president or other person protected by the Secret Service, including the vice president, is or will be temporarily visiting, or any building or grounds so restricted in conjunction with an event designated as a special event of national significance. I don't have any sympathy for this motherfucker. Zero. It sucks his son died in an automobile accident, but to claim the Biden administration killed them, or the fact that you were on probation and couldn't contact him, that's how co-defendants work. That's how co-defendants work. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. He's trying to use this story to elevate himself to some type of fucking hero. That I'm an old man, and when I got to a window that had been beaten in at the Capitol, I said, "This is the way the line's going. I guess I better go in there." Fuck you. And your son. That's a hot take. He goes on to talk about, this is just a picture. This is the bike my son was wearing. He goes on to talk about it, how his lawyer wasn't interested in getting him off and asked him to read a book or some shit. I don't know. He's a piece of shit. Fuck him. Anyways, you'll probably see him on your For You page if you use TikTok. It was, I got recommended both of his fucking videos. Both of his videos. So there you go. Next. The cost of deporting 11 million immigrants.
What would it cost to deport roughly 11 million illegal immigrants from the U.S.? I actually did the math on this, and the numbers are pretty shocking. So shocking, I actually hired a researcher to double check because I didn't think the numbers were right. If you want to check my math, the spreadsheets are available at runningbet.substack.
And they'll be the first people to be like, well, people gotta take responsibility for their own actions. You chose to come here. You chose to enter the United States. You chose to build a family here. You gotta take responsibility for your own actions. Oh, me? I just accidentally walked through a broken window.
substack.com for free. I am no expert in immigration, but I'm pretty good at math, facts, and numbers. I found this to be an incredibly complex topic, complete with scales and histories that are mind-boggling. I am not too into politics, so here's my rules of engagement on this topic, and there's really only two of them here. So number one, just the facts, no politics. Number two, sources are cited, found on Substack.
If he would have made a video and been like, hey, we probably shouldn't have went inside the building, like that was pretty fucking stupid. I don't know what I was thinking. I got caught up in the hype, and, you know, I shouldn't have done that. I would have been like, cool, yeah, all right.
Substack. Before we jump into this, let me talk about ground news. The Trump administration...
All he got was probation, by the way.
is running out of planes for deportation purposes, at least as of January 26, 2025, the day that I am filming this. I learned that on ground news, specifically the blind spot report. Let me show you this. Most news outlets covering this event have been right-wing. I am a centrist. I totally missed this story. If you're on the left wing, you wouldn't have even seen this story at all because your news organization didn't even report it. This blind spot report is really useful, and you get it every single day with ground news. Ground news is a news aggregator. Not only gives you the factuality rating of your news source, but also who owns it, so you can figure out who is telling you.
Not only that, is like the window was kind of elevated off the ground a little bit. People were, somebody had to basically lift him up and shove him in the window. Like, it wasn't like, oh, is this a sliding glass door or a window? You know, it like people picked him up off the ground to put him in it.
What to think. I pay for ground news myself. They do not give it to me for free. I even got a subscription for my dad, who's 86 years old and sits around watching CNN all day, becoming more and more misinformed. This is a crucial tool, not only for you, but for that family member who really, really needs it. So go to ground.news/Ryan, get 40% off the Vantage plan, which is the same plan that I own and I got my dad. So now let's keep talking about deportations. This video will discuss the following. What are the illegal immigration numbers? How did we get here? What will it cost to handle this colossal problem? And what happens next? Like I said before, all the sources are at ryanbeth.substack.com for free. By the way, you paid Substack subscribers are what keeps this channel going, so thank you guys for this. Unless you're a Native American, and Native Americans were colloquially and incorrectly called Indians until fairly recently, you're an immigrant too, right? We are a nation of immigrants, to use the old phrase. My family came from Northern Ireland. I live in Silver Spring, Maryland, which has the largest population of Ethiopians, like outside of Ethiopia. But the very definition of a country is its borders. It's how we say, okay, this is where your laws stop, our laws start. Now, the scale of the problem is something we often overlook. In American politics, both sides of the political spectrum have ignored the realities of this issue. Many think tanks and government organizations appear to agree that America's illegal immigration numbers hover around 11 million, maybe 13 million. And if we look at the extreme views, some places number as high as 30 million, although no evidence really appears to support this. So for our purposes, I'll stick with around 11 million illegal immigrants involved here. The math can always change by changing some numbers in the spreadsheet. Illegal immigrants living in the United States comprise close to
be fair, that number is probably ballooned some if he's able to get away with birthright citizenship, right?
5 times the population of New Mexico. The states with the highest levels of illegal immigrant populations are California, Texas, and Florida, which also have some of the strongest and largest economies in the United States. So you might be wondering, how did we get here? It's a long story, man. Now, to understand the issues behind the immigration crisis, we have to go way back and examine American history, and specifically prohibition. America's flirtation with national prohibitions is nothing new, and it was one of the leading causes of our nation's illegal immigration crisis. Now, during the 1880s, America experienced this massive influx of immigration from Ireland, Germany, Eastern Europe, and Italy, and a good portion of these immigrants brought their drinking habits with them, much to the...
By the way, everybody that says that my family come through here the legal way on Ellis Island and blah, there wasn't a legal way then, right? You just fucking came in.
Anger of Anglo-American Protestants. Rum, Romanism, and rebellion became sort of this racist dog whistle against alcohol-drinking immigrants by upstanding teetotalers. By 1915, Maine, Kansas, North Dakota, Georgia, Oklahoma, Mississippi, North Carolina, Tennessee, and West Virginia all had passed laws either banning or restricting the sale of alcohol. And that worked because many Irish, German, and Italian immigrants who enjoyed a drink now and then had settled in big cities like Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Chicago. None of those cities were in prohibition states before the passing of the 18th Amendment. So the whole prohibition thing may have been a case of pearl clutching or politicians pandering to their base. Some things never change. By 1920, there was enough public support for prohibition to pass the 18th Amendment, which banned the sale of alcohol in the United States, with exceptions made for religious wine and medicinal whiskey. By the way, if you've ever shopped at Walgreens, they grew from 20 drugstores in 1919 to over 525 stores by 1929, mainly by filling whiskey prescriptions during Prohibition. The American sport of NASCAR, the stock car racing came out of the Prohibition era, where moonshiners who made illegal liquor used fast cars to outrun the police while getting their products to market. So I guess this only goes to show you that if you prohibit something and there's a demand for it, people are going to go to great lengths to get it. And that's where the gangsters and organized crime comes in. We've all heard of the 1920 Chicago-era gangsters smuggling Canadian whiskey into America, but not many people know about the tequileros. Tequileros uses horses and mules to bring bottles of tequila from Mexico into Texas, where it would command a much higher price. Sometimes they were caught by customs officials, or they got into shootouts with the Texas Rangers, and their exploits were turned into romantic ballads called corridos. It was the forerunner of the modern drug cartel narco corrido. Now, by 1924, the situation on the American borders had really gotten out of hand. Smuggling was rampant, coming from Mexico and Canada. The same people who wanted liquor banned turned to a new kind of moral panic to ignite their base: immigrants.
Ooh.
You know, the purpose of propaganda isn't to speak the truth or create some kind of intellectual argument. It's designed to spread appeal down to the basest of human
Look at these fucking cartoons, dude.
emotions, even if it's logically suspect. That person is the other. That is the source of your problems. The other, real or imagined. Now, the Immigration Act of 1924 created an immigration quota of 2% of the total number of people of each nationality in the United States as of the 1890 national census. It also completely excluded immigrants from Asia coming into the U.S., specifically Japan and China, over fears of a yellow invasion. And yeah, that's what they worded it. The act also created the U.S. Border Patrol. And while they were technically supposed to enforce immigration laws, they found themselves dealing mainly with alcohol smuggling on the borders of Mexico and Canada. Creating a new bureaucracy to deal with a problem is as American as apple pie, because any kind of immigration reform that reduces the need for enforcement might be popular with people, but it won't be so popular with legislators. Politicians need a way to reward people who help them get elected, and this is why political patronage jobs exist. If the problem is illegal immigration and you create a border patrol, you just created hundreds of new jobs that need political appointees, and the winning party appoints those appointees. By World War II, the country was stuck in a serious farm labor shortage. Every young, able-bodied man was either signing up to fight or being drafted, and the U.S. needed a way to produce food for the war effort. That's where the Bracero program was ushered in. Men from Mexico could work farms in places like Texas, Arizona, California with a guaranteed minimum wage and good working conditions. By the 1960s, concern over working conditions, opposition from farm labor union activists such as Cesar Chavez, and rapid mechanization led to the ending of the Bracero program in 1964. By 1970, unemployment in Mexico was hovering at around 7%. If you're a young man, why not head north and work as unskilled farmers?
Exactly. The same people that condemn these people are the ones that it's like, I'd do anything for my family. So you're in Mexico. Your family's there. They're starving to death. The cartels are fucking running the place. You can't find a job. You can't find work. There's no employment. Your family's starving. You're telling me you wouldn't try to cross the border?
Farm labor. You can send money home, at least until you get caught. If you get caught, you just get deported. No big deal. You can always come back. Yeah, the border was really porous at the time. It wasn't that well enforced, and in many ways, border security kind of became a literal punchline for a joke. Remember that scene in that Cheech and Chong movie, Up in Smoke, where a Mexican family in LA gets themselves deported because they need a ride to a wedding in Mexico? It's a funny scene, but it reflects the sort of wink and a nod that many Americans felt about the Mexican border, especially farmers who needed cheap labor. Americans claimed they wanted border security, but they also wanted cheap strawberries. You know another thing Americans wanted? Drugs. Americans love to do drugs. Marijuana was illegal in America, and Mexico just so happened to have the right climate conditions to grow cannabis. It also just happened to be right next to the United States. With prohibition comes gangsters and smugglers, no different than the 1920s. Marijuana is heavy and bulky.
And cocaine.
It smells. It's easy to detect. A kilo of cannabis could be sold in the 1980s for between $1,400 to $1,800. And you'd have to move a lot of cannabis to make any money. Now, cocaine in the 1980s changed all that. A brick of cocaine could be sold for about $50,000. This means you'd have to transport 33 kilos of cannabis, or roughly the weight of a queen-size mattress, in order to make the same profit as 1 kilo of cocaine. What would you distribute if you were a drug smuggler? I mean, you would distribute the smallest item that you could make the most amount of profit on, right? And in the 1980s and 90s, it was cocaine. Criminal cartels started forming in Mexico, which controlled the routes for moving drugs into the U.S. While this was going on, Central America was a hotbed of revolutionary insurgencies. The Soviet Union was funding revolutionaries in Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Peru during the 1970s and 1980s. And if Russia funded the communists, America funded the anti-communists and the dictators of South America who kind of kept a lid on communism with an iron fist. Into this mix, we introduced the money from drug production and transportation. You know, sometimes a person wins the lottery and they just go crazy? Well, that was Central and South America in the 1980s. America, the Soviet Union, and drug cartels were bringing in money and guns. The drug cartels are often the revolutionaries using drug sales to fund anti-government operations. El Salvador had been dealing with left-wing communist-supported insurgencies for years, and you can kind of understand why. El Salvador's main export was coffee, and most of the land was owned by like 2% of the population. If you were a peasant farmer and some Cuban revolutionary showed up inside El Salvador with some guns and an ideology about a classist society, that might sound pretty darn good. A coup plunged the country into civil war that pitted American-supported right-wing anti-communist leaders against left-wing Cuban and Soviet-sponsored revolutionaries. These El Salvadoran refugees flooded into America, and we let them in. Some settled in Los Angeles and formed gangs to protect themselves from other established gangs in the area. This was the advent of the infamous criminal gang MS-13. When the El Salvadoran Civil War was finally over, refugees who were convicted of crimes were sent back to El Salvador, where they promptly started gangs and would drag the country back into chaos again. Now, by 1986, the United States was facing a major immigration crisis. People from Central and South America were fleeing war and poverty. Congress passed the Immigration Reform and Control Act, and President Reagan signed into law on November 6, 1986. This law provided amnesty to certain undocumented immigrants who had been continuously present in the United States before January 1, 1982. The law also created the I-9 form for employee eligibility verification. This meant that in America, when you applied for a job, you had to prove your eligibility to work with a birth certificate or a Social Security card. Now, for my foreign viewers, America has no national ID card. The most common form of identification in America is issued by the individual states, the driver's license. That's right. The organization responsible for determining your identity is the one most concerned about whether or not you know when it's legal to make a left turn. Now, by the 1980s and 90s, an idea began kicking around North American economic circles for a free trade agreement between America, Canada, and Mexico.
NAFTA.
I mean, these three countries were already huge trading partners with each other. Why not make it easier? And they called this NAFTA. In 1992, independent presidential candidate H. Ross Perot claimed in a debate that there would be a giant sucking sound of American jobs going south to Mexico if NAFTA passed due to lower wages and environmental regulations in Mexico. Well, Bill Clinton was elected president, and he signed NAFTA into law on December 8, 1993. Incidentally, H. Ross Perot's vision proved prophetic. My dad managed a warehouse for a factory that made women's dresses, and he lost his job a few months later. I still wanted to go to college for computers, but we had no money, which is why I joined the military. NAFTA was supposed to make Mexico rich enough to incentivize people to stay at home. But American agribusiness is really good at growing things, and the Mexican farmers just couldn't compete. So these Mexican farmers went north. Add into this the fact that cartels really don't care where they get their money. If you have a brick of cocaine, you have to get that product not only over the border, but to a city where you have to eventually sell it. But if you smuggle a person, well, by the time they're in the U.S., you already have their money. So why wouldn't you choose to smuggle a person instead of drugs? At least you don't have to carry the people, and the smuggling routes all still work. So there was a motivation on the cartel side to get into the people smuggling business as opposed to the drug business. Now, the root causes that I cover today are just a few contributing to the large-scale problem that is illegal immigration into the United States. So what would it cost?
All right, we're finally that's some of the root causes, right? And the history surrounding it. What would it actually cost?
Handle this very serious problem, politics aside. If we were to take Immigration and Customs Enforcement stats on arrests, it costs around $6,736.87 just to arrest somebody. That doesn't include detention, trial, and deportation. That is just arrest. So to arrest all 11 million or so illegal immigrants in the U.S., just arrest, it will cost $74,280,728,620.
He's taking the money from illegals and giving it to North Carolina.
This is assuming a 100% capture rate, which is unusual in all circumstances. Again, this is just the arrests. So what happens after the arrests? Well, then we have to detain these individuals somehow, right? This is where the scale becomes an absolute nightmare. How long are these folks detained? Is it 3 days, 15 days, a month, 6 months, a year? Note that I put together some dollar amounts in a Google sheet that I'm sharing with my Substack followers. It breaks down the estimated number of illegal immigrants per state with an additional examination of the numbers in dollar costs per state arrest, detention, trial, and deportation. These are rosy estimates, and they can't account for everything, and it is pretty darn eye-opening. All right, so back to what happens after arrest.
That's just to arrest them, by the way. We still got to detain them. We still got to take them to court, and then we got to transport them.
Detention, right? Detention, per ICE statistics, it's spread across a lot of government paper. And it shows that the cost of detaining a single individual runs about $236 per day. Families cost more. Medically needy people cost more. And I'm sure violent offenders, if they're captured, they will cost more as well. If new detention facilities are built and have to be built in a hurry. So more than likely, old military bases, maybe decommissioned federal facilities would need to be retrofitted to accommodate these individuals so this can be ramped up.
So he rules out even having to build new infrastructure, which is probably going to happen, right? We need detainment centers.
Up fast without having to build new facilities. So we might.
This is if we can retrofit places, use existing places, maybe an old military base is shut down or something.
Have to build any new infrastructure. But once the illegal immigrants have been detained, the clock starts running. They will need to go through a trial process so they can legally be deported, something that will require thousands of judges, a whole cadre of legal workers and support officials, as well as other human infrastructure like medical care, psychological care, janitors, laundry, and maintenance men. The costs just keep piling on. We need to feed these detained individuals. We need to keep them under surveillance. We need to keep them healthy. We need to keep them safe, and so much more. It is a problem that even if you look at it hard enough, it doesn't get easier to solve. Trials for those arrested and detained would be another logistical nightmare. If we were Russia or China, this would be something else entirely. But in our country, everyone, and that means everyone, including illegal immigrants, including violent gangbangers, everyone gets a fair trial. That means judges, legal workers, courtroom janitors, technology support technicians, interpreters, and more would be required to take this task on. The cost for these trials would be enormous too, in terms of the number of people being fed through the system, which comes at a per individual cost of roughly $2,000 per person tried. This mass-scale deportation operation would require a considerable number of guards and facility staff, so ICE would likely need a considerable budget, and ICE's recent $9 billion budget suggested it is not up to this task at all. They would need more money. Then we have deportation, which is the final stage of this process. The average cost of deportation has been estimated by the American Immigration Council will be in the ballpark of about $1,500 per person. It adds another layer of complexity to this massive undertaking. In terms of scale, cost, and disruption, we're looking at one of the largest mass migrations of people in human history. So at an absolute minimum, if we hold every illegal immigrant for the minimum amount of time, meaning like day one, you arrest them and then process them. Day two, they have a trial, and then by day three, they're either released or they're on a plane back to where they came from. That would take 3 days. That's the minimum. So the best case scenario, this works out to $74.3 billion to arrest, $7.8 billion to detain, $16.3 billion for trial, and $16.1 billion for deportation, for a total of $114 billion. That is just the best case scenario.
The best case scenario, if it only takes 3 days, one to arrest, one for trial, one for deportation, it's $114 billion. The best case scenario. Some trials are going to take a year. Some trials are going to take 3 months. Some trials, the court system is going to be so backed up. There may be trials that you don't even see a judge for 5 years.
We hold every illegal immigrant for 3 days. A more likely scenario would be 30 days. That would cost $74.3 billion to arrest, $78.2 billion to detain, $16.4 billion for trial, and $16.1 billion for
Remember the first time Trump ran and he said he was going to eliminate the deficit?
Deportation, which would be $185 billion. This is roughly the mandatory spending budget of the Department of Housing and Urban Development for the next 10 years. The absolute worst case scenario for holding everybody would be like a year. This would mean $74.3 billion to arrest, $951 billion.
Those are people that have already been through a deportation order. They've already had their trial. That is what they're doing. Those are people that have already been through deportation proceedings and didn't leave.
To detain, $16.4 billion for trial, and $16.1 billion for deportation, for a total of $1.058 trillion, or approximately the yearly budget of the Social Security program in America. Now, I don't think that every trial will take a year, and this is the absolute worst case scenario, but you need a clickbaity thumbnail with me going, right? The more likely scenario is that some people would take 3 days, like violent offenders. In some cases, families might take 30 days. And then there would be a couple of outliers that could take a year.
They're still marching them in front of a judge and saying deportation stands. You're hereby deported from the United States.
So Either way, once an illegal immigrant is arrested, the clock is ticking. So they either need to be released or deported as soon as possible because the costs go up really quick. And this doesn't factor into the equation the economic disruption from removing 11 million people from the American economy. People who are,
if anything takes out 11 million people. First of all, these people oftentimes work and pay taxes, sales taxes, income taxes, and don't receive any benefits from that because they're illegal, right? So they're paying in but not taking out. But even anytime we took 11 million people from the fucking workforce, it's going to have drastic consequences.
Something illegal, but they are working, they are paying sales taxes and gas taxes and buying groceries and so on. So there is an economic effect, and the U.S. needs to be prepared for that, although I'm not entirely sure what we need to do. So where do we go from here? Now, if history or even recent events are any indication of what will come next.
The only logical conclusion is not just say we're going after violent criminals and arrest anybody. There was a guy on CNN today that has a wife. He's lived here for 15 years. He's got a wife, 2 kids, a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old, deported to Guatemala. And the only thing he's ever had on his record was he was trespassed one time from a business. Don't just say you're going after violent criminals, but actually go after violent criminals and deport them. And everybody else got to have a plan for amnesty. That's the only way it makes fucking sense.
We might want to worry about this a little bit more. Historically, the United States has prided itself on being a nation of immigrants. However, we have been painfully slow and inept when it comes to our immigration policies concerning legal entry and enforcement. While arresting 11 million people probably isn't something that is economically or even politically feasible, something has to happen. We have to know who the hell is in this country. So maybe it could look like this. Step 1, we close the border to illegal immigration and deport people immediately when caught. I mean, the number 1 rule of wound management is to stop the freaking bleeding. Number 2, we deport violent offenders when caught. This is a no-brainer. And number 3, we figure out what the heck to do with the millions of illegal immigrants who remain. Now, number 3 might sound a lot like amnesty. And you might be saying, why are we giving amnesty?
You don't have to give like a broad amnesty, like, okay, you're just citizens now, but put them on a path to citizenship where they know they're not going to be deported. As long as they follow these rules, check in, do their thing, you're going to be a citizen in 3, 6, 9 months, whatever. That's the only way it makes sense.
To people who broke the law. I mean, dude, I got 2 options here. One that costs $185 billion and the other one's free. $185 billion could buy 84 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers with the U.S.
84 guided missile destroyers. 84. Nope.
So $185 billion and the other one's free. $185 billion could buy 84 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers for the U.S. Navy, and I'm a hell of a lot more worried about China's naval shipbuilding capability than I am dudes who stand outside of Home Depot. So yeah, we need to get rid of the violent offenders, but we may need to think about where this money is going. So this one's on you, America. Numbers are solid. How much does it mean to you to get rid of every single illegal immigrant? Because you can do it for a cost. And if we are going to do it, it would be in our best interest to keep detention time as low as possible, because that's a variable cost that can go up with time. So that's the question. We need to focus on as a country. We need to ensure that immigration is safe and legal and less of a mind-boggling crisis. And hey, if you want to support the channel, pick up my copy of The Wind Machine. It's about a mind-boggling crisis where a hedge fund manager with an AI-powered supercomputer discovers a...
It seems like to me what they've been doing is they've been finding places where they believe there's a large number of illegals, no matter of their criminal background, and they've been saying, oh, well, we think this one violent offender may be in here. But instead they go in there and find, 30, 40 people that are just illegals, not violent. Some of them don't even have a criminal record at all. And they just round everybody up, including a U.S. military veteran that wasn't here illegally, that was here legal, that was a U.S. citizen. They rounded him up too. They just rounded everybody up. And the fact that they passed they're passing legislation where they can go into schools, hospitals, churches is fucking wild.
Possible limited nuclear exchange with China and what he does with that information. You can also head over to Bunker Brand to get one of my Intel Life C-shirts. And I think we still have patches. The the Alcoholics Moving Cargo patches that you can kind of slap on your uniform until you get caught. An little tribute to the Air Mobility Command. And thank you guys so much for watching.
Wow, this girl from Watertown sure is cool. Hey kid, what's going on? Think tank! You know, a girl from Watertown is kind of like riding a moped. It's lots of fun till your friends see you on one. What's really cool is a t-shirt.
There you go. Rami Beth did the numbers. That's what they look like. There is one more video I want to show before I end the show. I'm actually going to end a little bit early tonight, but there's one more video I want to show, but it's only going to be on Twitch. So if you want to come watch it on Twitch, come check us out. It's just because it's SNL skit and they will take my video down on YouTube. But I'm only doing one more video. If you want to come watch it on Twitch, do it. If you don't, that's cool too, but I'm cutting everybody else loose. So give me just a second. It's just an SNL skit that I thought was funny. So thank you guys for joining us. If you're not coming to Twitch, thank you for joining us. Thanks for hanging out. I'll be back tomorrow. I appreciate it. Let me cut these other ones loose, and then we'll watch this SNL skit. It's pretty funny, I thought. Have a good night. Love you. See you. Bye. Thank you for your support. We'll see everybody that's not on Twitch tomorrow. Have a good one, guys. All right, let me cut this one loose. That's YouTube.